Alright, so on this episode of the anthrotographer, I am covering a local South Florida issue, but it also bleeds into a countrywide phenomena as well. So, the last few weeks, I've been attending this protest in Boca Raton, Florida, that is demanding its local government divest from Israel bonds. Israel bonds are essentially loans that get funneled to the Israeli government to use however they like and get paid back with interest over a set time. So, individuals, local governments, universities, companies, pension funds, etc., can invest in these Israeli bonds. And Florida specifically is a major, if not the major, investment hub for these bonds in the entire country. So, for the first part of the program, I want to cover the protest with interviews from the protesters, and then after, I'll go deeper into the issue of the bonds and what is going on across the state and country with them. Just to say, since October 7th, 2023, investment in Israel bonds has increased substantially across the US, not decreased. So, onto the protest. These protests are taking place at Boca Raton City Hall. Okay, they're small sidewalk protests. I've gone 2 weeks in a row. There were homemade signs brought out by the organizers, and the hope was that we would grab attention from drivers passing by this busy intersection. And it's also to make a statement in front of City Hall. So, the first day that I went, I noticed a lot more honking and support. But this past Saturday, this past weekend, definitely noticed more hate than support. I saw a lot of cold, disapproving stares, plenty of, rolled down windows, people driving by cursing with their middle fingers out, a lot of fuck yous. All this towards people protesting for peace. My buddy came with me this weekend, and he got his sign hit with an egg. He would have gotten hit if not for the sign. We were facing oncoming traffic. This guy had his window rolled down, Zionist, obviously, just pelted an egg at the crowd, got my buddy's sign. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but that's a representation of kind of what energy is being sent towards the protest. And I noticed way more people this weekend driving by and preemptively having their phones out pointed at our direction. Almost pre-planned recording of the protest. I think locals, possibly Zionist locals, have caught on to the protest on that corner. So the tension might be growing on their end. But if you are interested in this cause, to be, to fight against, the local city governments or the local county governments and the local city government of Boca Raton's investment in Israel bonds, you can find this particular protest and, whereabouts they meet every week on Instagram. Instagram is Protesters for Palestine, all one word, or Protesters for Palestine Boca. And I will link their link in the show notes, okay? So now on to the interviews, and then after, like I said, we'll do a deeper dive into my research on Israel bonds.
Yeah, I'll get my name.
Okay. So I'm here with Kayla,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And we're here in Boca Raton. We're on the corner of Palmetto Park and Second Avenue. We're here in a pro-Palestine rally against Israel bonds that Palm Beach County purchases and Boca Raton purchase here. And I'm here with citizens. Kayla, what inspired you to come out here today?
Um, it's just hard for me to see what's happening in Palestine and imagining the kind of daily trauma they go through. Um, and the least I can do is stand on like a street corner for 2 hours to show support. I just think it's important to show international support for people in Palestine.
What do you know about the issue of like Palm Beach County, as it relates to the Israel bonds?
I honestly didn't know how much they invested, but it doesn't really come as a surprise because I know that Florida really aligns itself with Israel, with Israeli interests. But it's definitely something I have to look into more.
Do you support BDS against Israel? And to your knowledge, what are the best entities to target?
To my knowledge, I do support, and I know SodaStream is one. Intel, I know that's another big one. I think Airbnb is another one. Just other bigger companies, yeah.
Starbucks, I think.
Starbucks, yeah, for sure. McDonald's, I think those are more like organic targets. Burger King. So yeah, it's the least I can do also.
In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak with people about this issue?
Not in my my friendships. I haven't really come up with a lot of resistance, but with my family, a lot of the mindset is like, what's the point of showing up if we're so far away? What does speaking out and educating yourself, what impact does that have? So that's the biggest block for me.
Yeah, I've had that issue, the same thing. People tend to agree
Yeah.
because it's very hard to see to ignore the inhumanity,
Yeah.
but they don't know what to do, and they don't see the power in people power yet.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's one of the bigger challenges I have in my personal lives. Like, people will care about it and people will educate themselves on social media and stuff, but taking the extra step to show up physically is a challenge for some people, which I understand, but I just wish more people were open to it.
Yeah. Have you seen a shift in public perception on Israel-Palestine recently?
I think so. After the ceasefire was announced, I think there was some shift, but it's not enough. So there's a lot more work to be done.
What do you think is the best way to approach the topic of U.S. and Israeli colonialism with normies?
What I find most effective, I'm Filipino, so trying to find points of connection with other people who come from countries that have been affected by imperialism and colonialism, because once you figure out that it's all of our struggles are connected, and we all have a stake in like ending imperialist connections, I think it motivates people a lot more once they realize that we're not so different from people in Palestine, and it just kind of drives that empathy, I think.
When did you start learning about this issue and starting like getting active in it?
I attended my first Palestine Solidarity protest in 2021. So since then, I've just been trying to stay active.
Gotcha. Are you worried about state repression against pro-Palestine advocacy?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern in Florida. It's pretty repressive here compared to other like states like California and stuff. But I think it's still important to show up even if you're afraid.
Yeah.
I think like the cost of showing up and the risk of showing up is like not measurable at all to the risk that people in Palestine experience. So I don't know. I'm not like. I mean, it's obviously a concern, but um, yeah.
What's your name and what inspired you to come out here today?
My name is Alan Decker, and I'm organizing these protests. I've been doing it since the global Samud flotilla was attacked. I got really angry, and I organized the first one, and we've been doing it every week since then.
Okay. What can you tell me about Palm Beach County and Boca Raton as it relates to Israel bonds?
So Palm Beach County, if I'm not mistaken, has about $700 million invested into Israel, and Boca has about $6 million. That's more than, well, I mean, more than any place really should have. Anything is more than any place should have. But this is an exceptionally high amount. And Palm Beach County is one of the highest, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the most invested areas into Israel in the world.
Yeah.
So we are here to protest that and also the businesses that are complicit. We're going to march on them in a minute.
Okay. What are these bonds for people that are not familiar with bonds and Israeli bonds specifically?
So bonds are like an investment where we give Israel money and they're supposed to return our investment. But what we're doing is we're giving them the money and then we're reinvesting it in them, meaning they keep the money and they can use it. They're using it to kill Palestinian children and they're using it to occupy and starve people. And it's wrong, and we are demanding that Boca Raton divest.
What makes these bonds from a fiscal perspective not good for a local taxpayer?
From a fiscal perspective, we're supporting a foreign country with taxpayer money of a local city, and that's being sent off to Israel, where it doesn't benefit us. It benefits Israelis and the occupation, and Israelis living in especially the occupied areas of Palestine is extremely subsidized by American taxpayer dollars. And from a fiscal perspective, that means that we live less amazing lives. Yeah,
tax dollars is not going to our community.
Yeah, it's not going to our community. We're not being invested in. They're being invested in.
Do you support BDS against Israel? And to your knowledge, what are the best entities to target?
Yes, I do support BDS, and I do boycott myself. The best entities, I would say, boycott big tech. In addition to Israel, they're also complicit with child labor in the Congo. But boycott big tech and buy your tech used. And for Israel, some of the biggest companies to boycott are Chevron. They fuel Israel. And Maersk, their shipping company. And Amazon too. And Walmart and Starbucks. Those are some of the big ones.
In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak with people about the issue?
Oh yeah. There's a whole lot of, it's the kind of issue that if you touch it, things like you could have the same opinion on it as someone else, but if you don't, then you're not going to know that person anymore. But it's something that has to be talked about, and the reason it's so contentious is because people are often labeled as anti-Semitic for being anti-Zionist, when that's just propaganda. That's not true at all.
What do you think is the best way to approach the topic of U.S. and Israeli colonialism with normies?
Obviously depends on who you're talking to. If they're a person who are well educated on other human rights issues, whatever they may be, then yeah, I'd recommend approaching it from that perspective, like what Israel's doing to Palestinians, how the civilian casualty rate in Palestine is larger than that from World War II. Crazy things like that really show what a humanitarian crisis it is. But if it's someone who's less concerned with that, then I'd recommend the best way is just point out how their money is going to Israel instead of our country. I know it's kind of cold because you're not talking about the genocide, but that is the way you'd address it with people like that.
When did you start learning about this issue and getting active with it?
I don't remember exactly when I first found out about it because my family supports Palestine, so I've never not. But it's been like a slow, I went to my first protest back, I think in 2023, and then later on I started these, but I've just been steady getting more and more involved as the days go on.
Last question, are you worried about state repression against pro-Palestine advocacy?
Yeah, I am, all over the world. For example, in Britain, it's illegal to support Palestine action at all. And we're seeing thousands of elderly people just holding signs that say, I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action, being arrested with terrorism charges. And that's frankly ridiculous. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start trying the same thing in the United States. And they already target people who support Palestine in the United States for deportation and other things. But yeah, there will come a day when it's no longer like this.
So I'm here with Gianna. Gianna, what inspired you to come out here today?
Well, honestly, I was at a concert. Well, this is my third time being here, but I was at a concert and then I heard about it. And yeah, I just feel like it's important, and I feel like, I don't know, this genocide is not alone to Gaza. Like, it's not a singular incident, and yeah, it was kind of pissing me off that people were talking about it, but like nobody's really doing anything about it. So it just kind of is nice to be around like-minded people, and yeah, it's nice to be around like-minded people.
I agree with you. What can you tell me about what you know about like Palm Beach County and the Israel bonds, if anything?
Yeah, so I know Palm Beach County in particular has given $700 million in bonds, which we could get that back, we could not get it back, probably won't get it back, but has given $700 million in bonds to Israel, specifically for the military to bomb people, like not just kids, like the elderly too. Like it's terrible. And I mean, you see so many people like on the street, like we can't even get free buses over here, like any accessibility for like anybody, and yet we're over here sending $700 million just like that, like for nefarious reasons. So
do you support BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction against Israel? And well,
yes, I do. I mean, I understand that it is kind of hard because they really, Israel kind of does own a lot of things here. Honestly, I have been trying to think of it more like a lifestyle change though, because a lot of these stuff, like especially these companies, like they do not give a fuck. Like Coca-Cola don't give a fuck about you, Nestle don't give a fuck about you. Like there ain't even nutrients in their water, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I feel like honestly I'm trying not to think of it just as like a boycott, or like, that was a question, right? Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of it not as like a boycott, but more of like a lifestyle change. Like I feel like my eyes have been opened, especially after this whole like situation. And yeah, like I do want to like nourish my own body and nourish my family's bodies with like stuff that's actually gonna fulfill them, and not just like garbage. Yeah.
I agree with you. In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak with people about this issue, the Israel-Palestine issue?
Yes, sometimes, because I do have a lot of friends that are Jewish, and I feel like it does kind of sound like I'm coming from an anti-Semitic place sometimes, which I never blame the people. Like, it's always the leaders, it's always the people with money, like it's always them, you know what I mean? So I do think that it is kind of hard, because it's such a divisive topic, you know? Like, it's not black and white, and
there's a lot of propaganda behind it, you know?
yes, there's propaganda on both sides too, though, you know? Like, I like on my feed, it's all Israel's bad, like Israel, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, those people are being fed propaganda as well, just like how we've been fed, just like how everybody's been fed, you know? So I mean, yeah, it has been kind of hard, but
have you seen a shift in public perception on Israel-Palestine recently?
I feel like the media has always kind of demonized Muslims in my eyes, but I feel like recently, wait, I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Just have you seen like a shift in how people are seeing the issue, you know, like maybe in your personal life, maybe just what you've seen online, you know?
Yes, I mean, well, when I've told people about Palm Beach County like giving $700 million away, like they were completely shocked, like they didn't like know anything about it. A lot of people, I would say online, I feel like their opinions are kind of shifting on Israel, you know, like they're becoming a more like they're questioning more things around them, you know, which I think is good. Like you should always question everything, but
What do you think is the best way to approach this topic and the topic of like U.S. colonialism, Israeli colonialism with normies? Like, what's the best in that you found to the
Well,
conversation?
I work at a smoke shop, so I brought some of the flyers there, and I put them out, and just I just asked them like, hey, would you, if you know anybody. In the back of my brain, I kind of have a feeling that they won't come, but you really never know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the person who gave me the flyer for this probably didn't think I was gonna show up. So really just like when they ask what it's for, tell them $700 million are being given to like bomb elderly, bomb like regular people like you and me, and it's fucked up. So honestly, like everybody's different. Like you can tell them, and people still won't give a fuck. Like they'd rather get their new shoes instead of like boycott, just out of like comfortability. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's more out of a place of being comfortable and not wanting to accept that like what I'm doing actually does have an effect, and like the money I'm giving does have an effect. Like we've all become very apathetic and very like, oh, what I do doesn't matter, and that's mostly the issue. Like I feel like a lot of people do, like they agree, like it's bad to fucking bomb people, it's bad to kill kids, but they're very apathetic and think that they can't do anything. And that's what, like I used to be like, I don't give a fuck about politics, like I don't care, like I can't really do anything, like the rich just gonna keep getting richer. But that's just not true, like, and that's what they want you to think so that you don't stand up and like protest and shit, you know what I mean? Like it is a lot more fun to go to the beach than stand out here and protest, but like you could always go to the beach after. It really feels like 5 minutes being out here, like it's really nice.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I found too. Last question. Are you worried about state repression against pro-Palestine advocacy?
Honestly, not really. I probably should be a little bit more concerned about it, but I don't really. I don't know. It feels right to me, and regardless, like I'm not really worried about that. I feel like people are being like fucking bombed. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. What happens to me is very little, like compared to what's going on. You know. But I do sometimes get worried that somebody's gonna like dox me or something like that, or like other crap. But it's a risk, you know.
It's a risk. Yeah.
Like that shit could happen if you're just sitting on your ass, anyways, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Appreciate you
Of
talking to
course.
me.
Thank you for asking.
So, what is your name and what inspired you to come out here today?
So my name is Elizabeth Decker, and I am out here because my son started the protest. He was, after it was I think it was when the boat, when the flotilla, I think they were captured by Israel, and he was angry about it and talking about what can I do about it. And so since we couldn't find any protest supporting Palestine in Boca Raton, he decided to create his own. So
That's awesome. What can you tell me about Palm Beach County or Boca Raton in regards to the bonds, the Israel bonds?
So I'll be honest, I don't know very much about them, just that they do have them. And it's disappointing from the perspective that, we've, been in the city for a long time, and you kind of, think about, some pride in your city, and that, you don't realize that, they're even indirectly, supporting these horrible things that are going on. So this is, something we just recently learned, and that also has fueled our desire to come out and protest.
Do you support BDS, boycott, divest, sanction, as a tactic against Israel?
Just in general, support
In
divest?
general, or the specific
Yeah,
boycotts?
I'm not familiar with all the specific ones, but yes, in general, I do think it's important that if you, whatever the cause is, like, we have a lot of power as consumers, and so we can make our wishes known by simply, not buying stuff, or not supporting companies that, are not doing what's best for humanity and for the planet.
In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak to people about this issue?
Yes. There are individuals in my personal life who I know to be Zionist, even if they won't label themselves as that. They are very pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian, and it's upsetting, because you have people that you considered friends, and to hear that they're okay with bombs being dropped on innocent people, like it's just it blows my mind.
What do you think in those conversations? What do you think is the best way to approach Israeli occupation, like with normies? Like, what is a good in?
It depends. So if they have no knowledge whatsoever, like, trying to be clear about the fact that what we're trying to promote is that Palestinians be treated with human dignity and that they have their freedom, that they are not living in an apartheid state. And, it's really, truthfully, like, the whole world got together and made sure that the apartheid in South Africa was taken away or done away with. So why can't we do the same thing with what's happening to Palestinians? And unfortunately, politics, I honestly don't know all the reasons, but there's politics are just keeping people from taking that action that we know we need to take. If I were talking to somebody who's already made their opinions known, it might be more of a tentative conversation to find out how open they are to hearing different points of view. I have run into people who are not open to hearing different points of view, and I have lost friends over, some issues that I felt, I made a stand and said this is what I believe in, and they stopped talking to me. So, I think it's important that we do make a stand. We do not have to convince everyone. There are people that have made up their minds, and it doesn't matter what you say, they're not going to change their minds. So in that case, I think it's just important to say what you stand for, and what will be, will be.
When did you start learning about this issue and getting active with it?
So we've been following it for some time. Obviously, with the whole October 7th, that really, projected it into the forefront. But we have been aware even before then of some of the things that have gone on in between Palestine and Israel, and in some ways it feels like the unsolvable problem. I don't think it is unsolvable. It just requires that, people get out of their corners, and it's become, like compromise is a bad word, and it's not a bad word. It's, we need to learn how to compromise. That's how we learn to live together. It doesn't mean that you give up on something that you feel is moral or whatever, but you have to recognize the other person's humanity, and that it is important that you find a way to compromise with people that you don't agree with.
Thank you for talking to me.
My name's June, she, her.
Okay. So June, what inspired you to come out here today?
Just wanting to get more active in multiple communities. I actually used to live here, even though I live in Broward currently, but I used to live here for about half my life. And someone in a Discord I'm in actually posted the event, and I decided to just come because I have nothing to do today. I might as well actually show support to a good cause.
What can you tell me about Palm Beach County or Boca Raton as it relates to Israel bonds, if anything? I mean, you might just be learning about it.
Yeah, I didn't know how deeply involved Palm Beach was. I kind of assumed, because I'd heard about the FAU stuff going on since DeSantis puts that fuckhead in charge, and they've been sending, I think they're at the top school for sending a shit ton of money over there at this point. And yeah, I didn't know about how bad a lot of the local businesses on this street that we're at were actually donating. I didn't know that there was a place actually trying to sell land that was colonized. It's like kind of insane.
Do you support BDS against Israel? And to your knowledge, what are the best entities to target?
yes, and my best, probably the best entities. Like, I think McDonald's is especially one of them because they sell so much food to so many people every single day, and it's just a huge mess. People keep going there even though they really shouldn't.
In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak with people about the issue?
Yeah, my family are kind of Zionists. Kind of the only one in my family who's not into Israel, and a lot of my circle is also kind of in the same viewpoint as me. So it's not been hard. I just don't know a lot of people who are Zionist or are pro-Zionist, and it's like kind of not much of my words can really convince them. It's a very hard thing to get people out of.
If there was one thing that you wanted the public to know about in regards to this issue, what would it be?
I want the public to realize that like real people are dying over this. Like, this is a genocidal state that's existed for over 70 years at this point, propped up by 2 other colonizer states to just kill innocent people for a bunch of countries, especially white countries that love to play our Christian values about family. They sure love bombing other families into oblivion.
Thank you for talking to me.
1 week later.
So, Sadiq, what inspired you to come out here today?
The Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. What inspired me to come out here today was the fulfillment of a sense of meaning for Saturday, because yesterday was a big day, Friday prayer. So, but on Saturday, I don't want to like lose my momentum. So, I've been doing this, but now I don't think there needs an explanation. It speaks for itself. So it's just important.
Jay, what inspired you to come out here today?
Well, I think that a lot of people need to know about how our local government here is complicit in military actions in Gaza, because we have over 6 million Israel bonds here. We've invested over $6 million in Israel bonds, which I guess one day we hope to get paid for, but in the meantime is going to war, is going to destruction, and we disagree with it here as Boca residents, and we invite all Boca residents to come out.
What can you tell me about Palm Beach County and Boca Raton as it relates to Israel bombs? Like, how do the bonds work for your average American that don't really understand?
Most Americans don't understand that the money that gets invested into Israel bonds, and here in Palm Beach County, we're the largest investor in Israel bonds in the whole world, with over $700 million invested in Israel bonds. That money doesn't just get sent over to Israel because we're just so generous, and in fact, most oftentimes it happens with complete lack of transparency. So most Boca residents, most Palm Beach residents don't know what our local governments are up to, and that's why we're standing out here specifically in front of Boca Raton City Hall. And we encourage everybody in Palm Beach County to look into this and to see how much your local congresspeople are, how much is being donated to them, you know, to pay for their complicity, to pay for their silence.
What makes these bonds from a fiscal perspective? Because you know some people just think about the money. From a fiscal perspective, not good for the local taxpayer.
Well, it's not good for the local taxpayer because it's not being invested here in infrastructure. You know, there are benefits that that Israel receives that here as Americans we don't receive. You know, such as you know, subsidized health care. You know, just maternity leave, all kinds of benefits that here as Americans we don't enjoy. And I think people would be appalled to learn how we're actually complicit in funding those systems that make this idealized form of that. It gives people this idealized version of that government.
Do you support BDS against Israel? And to your knowledge, what are the best entities to target?
Yes, absolutely. We absolutely support BDS. You know, there's Chevron, there's lots of, you know, there's McDonald's, which has fed IDF soldiers. The information is out there, and it's by large being suppressed, so it takes most people to take a responsible approach into looking into these things. If there's a gas station that you frequently go to, worry about whether it's or not is contributing to this genocide.
In your personal life, have you found it difficult to speak to people about this issue?
I think this is a very polarized issue. I think that even if you don't stand one way or the other, a lot of people that are even considering themselves apolitical don't want to touch it because they're afraid. And I think that's certainly the wrong approach. I think if we talk to most people, they have some way that they feel about this. And it definitely needs to be a conversation that all of us voters need to have. I mean, a lot of people, especially right now in the Trump age, think that voting blue down the line means that we're winning, and that's simply not the case because not all candidates, not all representatives are the same. Some of them are standing for super PACs, AIPAC, Israel Lobby, and many other PACs that don't belong in our political system.
What do you think is the best approach to the topic of Israel genocide for normies? Like, what has been your best way to start the conversation?
I think what you're asking about is the right approach. I think that more people need to know about how it's impacting Americans economically. You know, it's during a time when we're talking about how so many people depend on SNAP benefits, which are like $6 a day per beneficiary, which is absolute ridiculousness that in the richest country on the planet in the history of the world, we have to have people that rely on $6 a day for their benefits. So when we have that sort of wealth disparity and that sort of repression of the working class, we need to question why we are sending money anywhere, especially countries that are waging any kind of war. You know, as you know, the United States has a responsibility to move the world away from war, and many generations, you know, before have understood that, and they have taken efforts to denuclearize the world. But in fact, that is going the opposite direction now in the way that we are emboldening dictators and we're emboldening autocrats all over the world with our own autocrat president.
Are you worried about state repression against pro-Palestine advocacy?
Yes, there's always a worry about that, and you know it's already happening in many different ways. I mean, TikTok used to be a place where many people used to get a lot of useful information about, you know, what's going on in Gaza. Now it's been bought, and now you can't even get the message out there anymore. So state suppression is just wearing a different mask. It already exists. It's already happening. And it doesn't always look like boots on the ground trying to brutalize people at protests. Sometimes it also looks like the type of violence that is just meant to silence people in social spaces.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about this lawsuit that residents of Palm Beach have sued the county about the Israel bonds? Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard anything.
No?
I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, because I gotta read some more about it, because before the protest I was looking into it, and it looks like somebody did sue the county about it. So you know, it links to the protest, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to link up with us to discuss that, if people want to take that initiative, we believe that you have to push in every single material way that exists, whether that's economically by not spending your dollars in places that, you know, that support genocide, or whether that's standing out here, or whether that's arming yourself with knowledge so that you can talk to your uncle or your family members who are just not as informed. A lot of people just need this information to get to them, and it's incumbent on us to arm ourselves with that knowledge so that we can actually deliver that knowledge with authority. Because a lot of times when you try to speak from knowledge, even the people that are less educated on the subject will try to gaslight you and say you don't know enough about the subject to speak on it. But what I want to tell people is that you don't have to be a history scholar to understand that babies being bombed is wrong. You don't have to be able to explain exactly where on the map Palestine is. There are things that are self-evident, and we need to not try to set like these standards. Is this a genocide? Is this not a genocide? It's wrong, and we need to stop it.
Thank you for talking to me, Jay.
Do you mind talking to Alan as well?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Alan, yeah. So, Alan, we're here again Saturday. How can people get to the protest every single week, right? Because this is a weekly protest.
Yeah, so it's Saturday, 3 p.m. every Saturday, and we're protesting here at the Boca Raton City Hall.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get them to divest the $6 million they have in Israel, and we're also trying to get businesses down there in the east to divest as well, because they're heavily invested too.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard anything about a supposed lawsuit against the county in reference to the Israel bonds? Have you heard?
I have. I think it's something that it's definitely needed, and Although I haven't heard anything about it recently, but I have heard that it was being put forward.
Oh, okay.
Need more numbers every week, to be honest, because
Yeah.
we need to make this not just like a small sidewalk protest. We need to actually do something that can put pressure on these businesses and the government.
Yeah.
And I believe we can with consistency. So we're going to be out here every week, and we're not going to stop.
How do you see the reaction that you get from the street, from civilians when they see the protest?
In Boca Raton, Boca Raton is a major Zionist stronghold, and I was surprised at how many people supported us. You know, honking their support, thumbs up, all that.
Yeah.
As for the people who didn't, whatever. I mean, fucking colonists.
How has it been trying to be an organizer, you know?
How does it feel trying to be an organizer?
How is the work, you know? Is it hard? Is it easy?
So, I never thought that I could be an organizer, but then I just did one day because I got pissed off. When the flotilla was intercepted with Greta on it and everything,
Yeah.
I got pissed off, and right then and there I organized a protest for the following day. And it seems like it's something impossible to do, but if you've gone to protests and you're familiar with the local groups in your area, you can get support from them to do something like that. You can start your own groups, just start an Instagram account, get going, don't be afraid to do it. Yeah, that's what's really needed. And groups that can act on their own, and groups that value all of their members and aren't like super hierarchical, and groups that don't collaborate with the police are necessary.
Thanks to everyone who stopped to talk with me. You guys are great. Keep doing what you are doing. Now I want to read some things into the record. I've been doing a lot of research into Israel bonds and different Florida County investments into them, and I want to present that now. So I'm going to have my generous girlfriend read some quotes from some articles that provide important background information to the Israel bonds issue. She'll read the title of each article first, so you could reference each in the show notes. Let's begin.
Palm Beach residents sue county over its Israel investments. Palm Beach has invested $700 million in the bonds, 22 times more than any other county in the United States.
Now, for context, Palm Beach County and Boca Raton, the city specifically, has a, bigger than normal Jewish population. Also, Zionist population as well. The two are not the same thing, obviously. And also Mar-a-Lago, the Trump Hotel the Trump Resort is also located in Palm Beach County as well. It's a more, high income area. And so that's the context of Palm Beach County. For them to be invested in $700 million in Israeli bonds is almost unthinkable. That's 22 times more than any other county in the United States. That's amazing. That's a crazy number. A crazy number.
David Pina, the attorney who filed the lawsuit, told the crowd that comptroller and clerk of the circuit court Joseph Abruzzo had put 15% of the county's investments in Israeli bonds. Abruzzo has not only failed us morally, he's also violated 2 state statutes in the process. In Florida, activists find themselves up against a daunting political landscape. Governor Ron DeSantis refers to himself as the most pro-Israel governor in the United States. He visited the country multiple times as a Congress member, brought a delegation to Jerusalem for a Florida cabinet meeting in 2019, and passed a bill designed to censor criticism of Israel in public schools. He's embraced the state's anti-BDS law and slapped sanctions on companies that stopped doing business in the occupied West Bank. Last October, Governor Ron DeSantis coordinated with the State University System of Florida to call for campus students for Justice in Palestine, SJP chapters, to be deactivated in the state. In March, the state's legislature codified the controversial IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism, which classifies some criticisms of Israel as anti-Semitic. Activist group intends to sue Palm Beach County to disinvest from Israel bonds. Palm Beach County Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller Joseph Abruzzo said those investments generate money for the community. It seems to me that some of the protesters are not understanding that this isn't an appropriation to Israel. This isn't money that goes to Israel to help fund the war. This is simply an investment on our taxpayer dollars that earn income, Abruzzo said.
So Joseph Abruzzo says that the protesters are not understanding that this isn't an appropriation to Israel. This isn't money that goes to Israel to help fund the war. But that's not true. It is an appropriation to Israel. Okay, literally money that gets appropriated, sent to Israel, and Israel uses it for government funding across the board, including the military and occupation campaigns. So, yes, it helps fund the war. So Abruzzo in that comment is lying to the taxpayers.
Activists urge cash-strapped Miami-Dade to ditch Israeli bonds. That the county decided to further commit tens of millions of taxpayer funds to Israel, at a time when it is unable to fully fund its own budget, and Israel, according to the UN, is killing or injuring 100 children in Gaza a day, should strike every resident of Miami-Dade as fiscally irresponsible and morally disgraceful, said Jared Simon, a member of the South Florida Break the Bonds campaign. The county could put the money into local government or services or other investments with similar return rates that are less risky and don't make us complicit in violations of human rights or international law, Simon says. Critics argue that such investments are becoming riskier because international ratings on Israeli bonds have changed. Moody's downgraded its rating in October and postponed its latest rating report. The county currently has 5 active bond purchases, including the one that was just renewed, totaling $76 million, according to county records requested by the Break the Bonds South Florida campaign and provided to Axios. One will mature in November, the other 3 will mature next year.
So, as you see, some of these bonds are set to mature soon. You know, we passed the deadline for one of them in November, but some will mature next year, and these counties and local municipalities are going to look to reinvest in these bonds again. And if there's not enough public pressure, they will. So this podcast and the protest that was covered in the podcast is trying to put on that pressure and, you know, incite more, you know, public outcry on this. This is a bad investment and it's morally wrong.
How American tax dollars prop up Israel's zombie economy. While information about Israel's struggling economy is not widely discussed in the West, Israeli economists such as Dr. Shir Hever have concluded Israel heavily relies on foreign investments and loans to remain viable. Otherwise, it is a zombie economy. BDS impact. The boycott, divestment, and sanctions BDS movement is reducing foreign investment. Tech sector collapse. A 90% drop in tech investments has exacerbated economic instability. Tourism. Israel's tourism industry has stopped. Port damage, bankruptcy. Eilat Port declared bankruptcy in 2024, while other ports have been damaged during Israel's war with Iran. Weapons dependency. While Israel buys weapons from the U.S. using American taxpayer money, it depends on European supply chains that are increasingly imposing sanctions. Israel's economy contracted in Q2 2025, primarily due to the severe disruptive 12-day war with Iran in June. GDP shrank by 3.5% annually and by 0.9% quarterly. All major components fell, with a sharp 12.3% drop in investment and a 4.1% decline in private consumption. Exports plummeted 12%, while imports also decreased by 3.5%. To bridge this gap in funding, Israel has been selling a record amount of bonds. Israel issues 3 types of bonds to foreign investors. Sovereign bonds, underwritten by banks and tradable on financial markets. U.S. guaranteed bonds, backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, which assumes liability if Israel defaults. Israel bonds, underwritten by the Development Corporation for Israel, and not sellable on secondary markets.
So all these articles, like I said, are in the show notes, including this link to Moody's when they downgraded the credit ratings for Israel bonds last October, pointing to the military conflicts Israel was engaged in within its borders, as well as with Lebanon, Iran, and Syria. I'm also linking another credit rating article from the SP 500 that also downgraded Israel bond ratings last year, but this year, after the ceasefire or supposed ceasefire, upgraded the bonds rating back to stable. So they assume with this rating a slowdown in political and military volatility, leading to a safer investment in the Israeli economy as a whole. I fail to see how this can hold and how that credit rating is sound or shows a stable investment when investing in Israel. The ceasefire has not held, Israel continues to kill Palestinians, and the Greater Israel Project is still being carried out. Global protests and BDS campaigns continue to put fiscal and political pressure on the Israeli government and its allied governments. So all signs to me point to instability in Israel as an investment. A lot of the investment is predicated on the colonization project that is Israel. The occupying/stealing of more lands and resources in the West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, etc. Colonization projects historically have been incredible investments for the colonizers and their financial backers. So there is their rationale for these investments. But people are waking up more and more every day to how horrible the project is and wanting less and less to do with the Israeli project. We see that across the globe and in the political pressure that citizens of the world are putting on their own governments that accomplish Israel. So yeah, here are some organizations and their articles some organizations that combat the investment into Israel bonds. Jewish Voice for Peace is one, and this is one of their articles.
This is for the Break the Bonds petition by the organization Jewish Voice for Peace. While many know that the U.S. Congress sends billions of dollars each year to support the Israeli military's violence against Palestinians, few know that billions of dollars in funding to the Israeli military and government comes from institutions and spaces much closer to home. That's right. Our local governments, state governments, unions, pension funds, universities, places of worship, and other institutions are directly supporting the Israeli military and government by investing billions in Israel bonds.
Dawn is another organization doing work combating investments into Israel bonds. And here's one of their articles.
United Nations include Israel bonds in settlement businesses blacklist and corporate crimes report. By purchasing Israel bonds, individuals, private and public companies, city, state and national governments, universities, synagogues, financial institutions, and banks effectively loan funds to the Israeli government that it uses to further its crimes in the occupied Palestinian territory. The Israel government uses the proceeds from the sale of Israel bonds to supplement its general budget, including to pay for the cost of its settlement expansion and illegal occupation. DCI states that it has raised over $53 billion by selling Israel bonds to private citizens, public institutions, and corporations in the United States since its founding in 1951. According to its website, Israel bonds rank among Israel's most valued economic and strategic resources. Israel bonds serve as a source of economic stability for the country, especially in periods when it becomes more expensive to borrow in capital markets. Such a scenario is currently playing out, with Israel's cost of borrowing likely increasing after major agencies downgraded its credit rating last year.
I'm going to also link to a third organization called the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights Action. They are an advocacy and political organization working to support the Palestinian people's struggle for freedom, and they also work on the bonds issue. So here's an article showing FAU, Florida Atlantic University, which is also based in Palm Beach County, more than doubling their investment in Israel bonds recently, this year, 2025.
FAU more than doubles investment in Israel bonds. Florida Atlantic University will more than double its investment in Israeli government-backed bonds with the purchase of an additional $5 million for its investment funds. This latest asset makes Florida Atlantic the university with the largest Israel bonds holdings in the world, a total investment of $8.2 million, up from the $3.2 million held by the FAU Foundation. This is a sound financial decision, but equally important, it is a statement of solidarity that reflects our vision for the future, said Florida Atlantic President Adam Hasner. As a leading university and a member of the South Florida community, we cannot ignore what is happening to Jewish students across the country, and we are proud of the steps we are taking to become the safest and most welcoming university for Jewish life in America. Another quote by President Adam Hasner. Florida's new investment, Israel's war. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is set to quietly ban any financial risk standards when local governments use public money to invest in bonds funding Israel's government, just months after a major credit rating agency warned the bonds were at risk of default and a potential junk rating. The only foreign bonds that localities in Florida can invest in by law are from Israel. Because of the downgrades, Palm Beach and other counties invested in Israel, including Miami-Dade, would be in violation of their local investment policies for any future Israel bond purchases, which mandate an A rating for Israel bond purchases. Those restrictions would be wiped away by the new bill, which passed unanimously through the Florida legislature in April, and now awaits signing by DeSantis before the end of the legislative session this month. Some 90 states and localities already had millions of dollars of investments in Israel bonds on the books, well before the Israel-Hamas war. But such efforts increased dramatically in the past year and a half. All of this U.S. investment is facilitated by the main underwriter and promoter of these government-backed instruments, the Development Corporation for Israel, also known as Israel Bonds. Israel Bonds has transformed into an all-encompassing financial and political operation that lobbies for legislation to boost bond sales and host lavish private junkets to wine and dine politicians, according to an investigation by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists last year. These influence-peddling activities have raised legal questions about whether or not Israel Bonds is operating in the United States as an unregistered foreign agent.
So as of July 1st, 2025, DeSantis signed this bill that the article was mentioning. So DeSantis is okay with your taxpayer money being gambled on these risky bonds, these bonds that are at risk of default and potentially junk rating. To raise a question and, answer it, the best way that I can from what I know is, how is it that Israel has so much influence on our federal government, our state governments, our local governments to induce our politicians, our representatives, to continuously, year after year, invest in Israel and Israeli bonds, when credit rating systems are showing that these are risky investments and that they go against the the moral code and the moral statutes listed on our, local constitutions, our local laws. How does this happen? Well, in my eyes, to my eyes, it's because from the beginning, not from the very, very beginning, but from, the beginning, the U.S. capitalist interests have intertwined themselves in the colonial project of Israel since the beginning. There's a lot of real estate, U.S. real estate moguls are also Israel real estate moguls. They do real estate in both places. Investors over here invest over there. They invest in technology and war technologies, military technologies, new tech companies, spyware. That's where a lot of the Western war tech and military industrial complex production and intel is centered in Israel. And so historically, a lot of investment goes into Israel because of that. It's been sound investments for capitalists for decades. And they don't want to lose that sound investment. So even though the Israeli government is committing genocide, to capitalists, they're already used to their investments leading to, misery on the back end. They're used to that, so this doesn't really faze them. And if anything, they hunker down, They hunker down and invest more, and that's what they've been doing. So, somehow, some way, we have to de-incentivize these investments. One way is to sue the county, like is being done in Palm Beach. And, hopefully in the future, we can get some more insight into how that suit is going, if it's continuing, if there's any progress being made on that. And we'll see how these protests keep going as well, if they grow. And they will grow. They will grow. The cards are stacked against us in Florida, who are, pro-Palestine advocates, against Israel bonds specifically, but, pro-Palestine in general, because this is the most pro-Israel government in the United States. Doesn't mean that I'm promoting defeatism. This is just, the realistic, outlook. This is the reality of the situation. And, the only way to combat that is to organize against those actions, those fascist actions, because nobody else is going to do it. Only Floridians have the power. It's not like Georgians are necessarily going to take up this fight. It's not necessarily their fight. It affects everybody, but it's not necessarily their fight. Floridians, need to make a stand on this. So I just wanted to say that. So yeah, 2 weeks in a row, a lot of research, but I'm enjoying the process, learning a lot. And I think it's informative, I know that, there's not really a lot of listeners to this program, but, who knows, maybe in the future it grows, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, I mean, I'm getting something out of it. Hopefully somebody else gets something out of it as well. And I invite any protesters from this protest and similar actions to call into the show. You can reach me at, Substack and Instagram and, by email, by, many different methods. Yeah, and I think we're going to have some protesters on the show soon Just to mention some actions going on right now across South Florida, I know that the Starbucks union of Palm Beach County is actually on strike currently in solidarity with nationwide Starbucks protests, as well as a stronger contract, better working conditions. So, hopefully I can talk to somebody, about that soon. But also, if you're interested and you're in the area and you are a coffee drinker, even if you're not and you want to protest or help out or support in solidarity, I will put their information in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening if you're listening, and peace out.
Gonna vent, but what a turn of events. I'm confirming the end. I was sleeping in the services then. She's the weakest in a circle of friends. She was flirting with men, I'm learning to mend. There's a lot of hurt to men, and I wanted to return to the sender, but I never heard of again. So I turned to the next, pressed the burden on them. She's immersed. Usually I'd be the first to defend, but I'm showing no concern, it's a trend. Tables turn, I'm pulling out, we had a date confirmed, but to me that's a mistake I earned. It aches, it burns, got a second degree like I paid to learn. Should be letting it be cause it makes me worse. I should be setting her free from the chains and curse, but she's no better than me, what's the safety word? Why is it ladies first? Why can't people get what they deserve?
I might not be there or whatever, but it's your decision.